What's going on, guys? I'm coming to you today with the top 10 Armada ships we're going to see. This video has been requested quite a bit because I had so many correct predictions on my last Armada video that this one was kind of long overdue, and I think it's time to kick things off and get started. So in at number 10 for my top 10 Armada ships is the Eclipse. Now, I'm not going to duplicate anything from the last list I did, so even though I had the Executor as on my last list, I'm including the Eclipse this way as just another reminder of be prepared, because I'm pretty sure Super Star Destroyers are coming, and the Eclipse is officially canon now, mentioned in 2 books, so the Eclipse, I think, is coming. What is not completely confirmed yet is exactly how the Eclipse looks. It's described very briefly, and we aren't sure if it looks exactly like the Eclipse from Legends, or if there is a new take on the Eclipse. I think it looks perfect, so I don't expect them to change much. So the Eclipse at number 10. Coming in at number 9, the Secutor class Star Destroyer. This is a larger Star Destroyer with a slightly unique design. It was featured a little bit more in the EU, but has recently come back in canon. And it kind of fills the role of a carrier, but also a slightly larger than an ISD. So it fit into like the battle cruiser and into like a different kind of category, but still not much larger. Not so much larger than an ISD that you couldn't have it. I think it was only like maybe 10% larger than an ISD. So it could totally fit within the game, and it is canon now. So and it looks different enough that I think it would be attractive on the tabletop. So the Secutor class Star Destroyer at number 9. At number 8, the Resistance gunships we see in the Episode 8 trailer. These things are gorgeous, and they're affectionately called Honey Droppers right now, although I don't think that is their official name. We don't really have too much information on these things other than they have some forward-facing guns. They appear to be fairly small in the category of capital ships, so they could potentially take the role of a flotilla or something small, kind of like the Hammerhead on a small base ship. They also have a ball turret on the back, so they potentially could have good anti-squadron dice. They could be the good guy's answer to the Imperial Raider. So it might be something like that. I would love to see a good, strong frontal firing arc. Maybe nothing on the sides, or I don't know, but maybe very weak. But I'd like to see. I'd like to see them potentially be expensive for a small ship to make up for that, all those extra points. So, and they look like they were all in a line too, so they might not even have that much mobility. They may be something you want to just fly in formation and kind of bring the wall of death closer and closer and closer. So the Honey Droppers, or the Resistance gunships as I call them, at number 8. Number 7. The Listening ship that we saw in Star Wars Rebels. Now, a lot of people looked at this and thought it was just a modified Gozanti, but the Listening ship is actually an IGV-55 surveillance vessel, and it is its own class of ship used predominantly for listening and spying. So this Listening ship is about the same size as a Gozanti, although it looks to be a little bit larger, but because it has a crew minimum of only 5 people which can run it, it can't be that much larger than a Gozanti. So I don't know if it will still be a different type of flotilla, or if it will just simply be a small ship, a very small ship. But if they ever wanted to do extra flotillas, here would be a perfect option. Alright, next up is the Nadiri Mark I Starhawk. The Starhawk was featured in the Aftermath trilogy as the first ship that the New Republic built after the Battle of Endor. And it was built out of a lot of old, not older, but partially destroyed Star Destroyers or confiscated Star Destroyers. It was rebuilt from old Imperial ships. So it was all new, built with a lot of old components, a lot of upgraded components. The Starhawk, I don't want to get into spoilers and what happens in the books, but the Starhawk is very powerful. It may be the most powerful ship that the Rebellion ever gets, or the New Republic gets, because they're not the Rebellion at that point. Although the Empire still considers them the Rebellion, right? But the Nadiri Mark I Starhawk. Now, I don't have a picture for you because there's no photographs of this thing yet. We don't know exactly what it looks like. We know that it does have a hatchet-type front, so we expect something kind of like a Nebulon. And that's why a lot of people thought the Resistance gunships or the Honey Droppers were Starhawks initially, except the Starhawk is large. It's going to be a big ship because they're supposedly a match for an Imperial Star Destroyer, thereabouts. So the Starhawks should be much larger than this small little gunships, and so, but we don't know. We haven't seen an actual drawing, official drawing, or photograph of what they will look like yet. So that will be very, very interesting. Probably one of the most interesting parts of getting one into canon is to see exactly what this looks like. So the Nadiri Mark I Starhawk at number 6. Coming in at number 5, the Dornian gunship, or the Brahatok class gunship. We've seen these everywhere for the longest time. They were originally in Return of the Jedi. They're also in Rebels, and we saw them in Rogue One. We keep seeing them and seeing them and seeing them, but we don't get anything official on them, and I really want to see it in the game. I want to see how many dice it's got in the front, how many dice it's got on the sides. I want to see what kind of movement it is. I expect it to be kind of a slower, similar to how the Resistance gunships might be. I want it to be a heavy gunship on a small base. So maybe the equivalent of like a Victory Star Destroyer on a small base, probably be a very expensive small ship too. Or maybe they'll just sacrifice somewhere. I expect it to be like a min-max type of ship. Have one arc very, very strong, maybe another arc weak, maybe no shields, but all guns, maybe only 1 shields, but a lot of guns. Something like that. Some kind of min-max, really strong weakness, but also really strong strengths. And that would be very, very attractive to a player like me who likes to min-max from time to time. So the Dornian gunship. All right, number 4, the Kyrian Spike. The Kyrian Spike is Tarkin's own ship from the Tarkin book. It's kind of the centerpiece of that entire book, and it's a very cool. It's Corvette-sized. It has a cloaking device, which is really cool and would present a whole new opportunity to do something new with Armada. But it's also a small ship, and honestly, the Empire needs more small ships. There's a ton of Star Destroyers, but the Empire is lacking in the smaller ships to fill out a list. And so with this Kyrian Spike, you probably just have one title, so you can only run one Kyrian Spike, but you could run other generics, and it would just be a great opportunity for them to come up with another Corvette-sized small ship for the Empire that would help fill a lot of roles that the Rebellion has an abundance of small ships, but the Empire has very few. So I think the Kyrian Spike it has to happen. It's not a matter of if it happens, I think it's a matter of when, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. So the Kyrian Spike at number 4. Number 3, the Venator Star Destroyer. Venator or Venator, I don't know. I say them each different times. Like I've heard it. Venator I've heard I think most of the time, but I've heard a lot of people say Venator as well. I think it's Venator. So Venator Star Destroyer. Alright, so this thing also is another Clone Wars era ship, but it was brought back into the canon of the Galactic Civil War in a lot of the books. It's mentioned most recently in Thrawn, but it's also mentioned in a lot of the other books. And also it's in Rebels, or a model of one is seen in Rebels above Tarkin's desk. So in the Season 3 premiere, you see Tarkin's office, and he's got a Venator. See, I did it again. A Venator behind him, behind his desk. So he's got the model of it there. So the ship is definitely an Imperial. The Rebels aren't going to have one. It's definitely going to be Imperial, and should be medium, and it could just, and it would look different enough while still looking triangular in general. I think it would be great, and I think it would be kind of pay testament. A lot of people said one of the strengths of the prequels and the Clone Wars era was the capital ship and the large space battles, and I think they really are onto something right there, especially with all those beautiful capital ships. We've got to get them into this game, because this game almost seems like it was designed for that. And so the Venator. Every time I say it differently. So that's a lick on me, I suppose. But yes, the Venator at number 3. At number 2, the revamped ISD. Now this one, it was almost going to be my number 1, but because I'm so unsure of exactly how it's going to happen, I put it at number 2. So here's basically my logic for the revamped ISD. There's a ton of Imperial Star Destroyer titles. An Imperial Star Destroyer is the most common ship in the entire Imperial Navy, so it stinks that we only have one, whereas the Rebels have 2 MC-80s, 2 different MC-80s. it stands to reason that we're going to get 2 different ISDs for the Empire. And it would just make sense too, because in that they have different capabilities. So you might see an ISD that's cheaper, but has less, like basically like a prototype ISD is one possibility that I think we might see. It would be more thematic to be able to fit multiple ISDs on the table. A Rogue One wave with an ISD would make sense. It's possible that those ISDs that were at Scarif were either had a skeleton crew or were just basically early model ISDs that just didn't have the firepower to stop the Rebel fleet. And so that kind of represents a thematic way to fill up the battlefield with ships without having to spend 120 points per ship. Maybe there's a 70-point ISD with less dice, but now you can fill up the battle with beautiful sculptures. So maybe there's a way to do that. 70 might be pushing it a bit too much. Maybe like 80 or 85 to 95, for less dice. Maybe you lose your long range dice and you have like only 2 red in the front and all blues, like maybe 6 blues and only 2 red, or maybe 4 blues, 2 black and a single red, or something like that. Some way to make it less of a threat, at least at long range, but and also justify a significantly lower point cost. So I think that would be also a great way to get the Chimera title into the game. And I think if we're going to see, we all know Thrawn has to be coming to this game, because this game was built for all of the Thrawns out there like you and me who want to, crush the rebellion, or, raise the rebellion up and crush the Empire. Basically, it's a strategic mastery of a character, and, that belongs in the strategic mastery of a game. So, another ISD expansion would be the perfect launching point to bring Thrawn into the game. So at number 2, a revamped ISD. Now I don't know if it will be another sculpt or not. It may be this. I kind of hope it will be a totally separate ship, slightly different sculpt. So we'll see. But I also wanted to be able to have titles for the other ISDs. So that's really the dilemma: is do you make it have new titles, or do you make it have or it's just its own titles, and then the other existing ISDs don't get to use those? We need more titles, guys. We need a lot more ISD titles. So, and then at number 1, the MC-75, as seen in Rogue One. This beautiful Mon Calamari ship. We all knew as soon as we saw it, as soon as we saw the trailers for it, that this thing was coming to Armada. So that's why it's at my number 1. Also, it can allow us to get Admiral Raddus, who would be awesome. He was really, really cool in that movie. And I think he would be an excellent commander in Armada. The MC-75 could either be a large ship or a medium ship, because it's kind of at the large ship size, but because of it might fit the role of a medium ship a little bit better, because the Rebels don't have hardly any ships that really fit the role of a medium ship right now. So I think it would work better for them to kind of put it at medium, even though it could, it is technically large enough to fall into the category of a large ship. I think it'll be a medium ship that is almost the same size as a large ship. So it's really about the base and what that's going to bring to the game. But I think the MC-75 is pretty much a foregone conclusion, and I'd love to see how it functions in the game. If it's going to be more of a carrier, or if it's going to be more of a support, or more of a gunship, or more of just a tank. And apparently it was pretty tough because it didn't get blown up. It did get disabled by Vader's Star Destroyer, but it didn't get blown up. So it might be a pretty tanky ship, but we'll see. Maybe a tanky medium ship. I could totally dig that. All right, guys. Well, let me know what did I not put on this list that you think should be here. So leave me a comment. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe if you want to continue to get content like this. And I thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have really helped me grow this channel, and I can't thank you enough for that. And as always, guys, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.